Hi, I'm excited to take a moment now to look at the units of study that Miss Meggie Smiley created for her third grade students. So we're going to start by looking at the unit that she did in the fall semester about writing imaginative stories, works of fiction. And let me just get this open so you can take a good look at it. Again, please do take more time to look through this whole unit. She's described the steps that she took, and just look at, oh, her authors that just love to write. Maggie's a really dynamic teacher, and I think that you'll love learning from her as you go through her slides. We're going to look specifically at the work that she did to advocate for this process writing in workshop classrooms, on her campus, on her team, and out in the community. Maggie had done some publication out in the community the year before. She had been excited about getting her student authors out into the community, and so she had some practice before this year. She had brought her young poets to a local restaurant to do a poetry reading on stage, and the families were there and listening. Oh, and the pictures are just beautiful. And this year, it was really cool how this came together. She was on maternity leave, and she was walking around with her new baby and went into a Lost Pines Art Center that she hadn't been into before. And she started talking to the manager or the director of the department of the art center and saying, you know, could I display student work in this space? What I love about what Maggie was doing is that she was walking around and carrying with her this lens for looking at the world and all of those community and local spaces as potential spaces for publishing student work. And when we can get more process work out in the community and out in spaces, we can advocate that this be the type of work that all students, all of our culturally and linguistically diverse students, every single one of our students has access to in their schools. So again, she has really great audio tips in here, full mini lessons and anchor charts that can help you if you're a teacher and you're interested in doing your unit on fiction in your classroom as well. She really honors the important stage of drawing as a part of planning and drafting. And so with her third graders, look at these amazing, colorful, detailed drawings that they did to start planning their stories. Walmart world here we've got, and here's a castle, and this one's got a police car, but it also looks like the three little pigs and a wolf involved. So these kind of fractured fairy tales may be happening as well. And so they really did a lot of their process of planning and drafting through using drawing and talking to get their story out. She also used a variety of mentor texts. Here you can see how they paid really close attention to author's craft of fiction so that they could then later apply that to their own writing. There was a book that she had read aloud, and a lot of the mini lessons that she wrote for her writing came from great sentences that she pulled out of the text that she was reading aloud to her third graders. I'm going to click through so you can get a good look at where she went and how she really documented the process. If you want to look later at this video, it's of a writing conference that she did with a student. Really gives a good example of how writing conferences are conversations between two writers, between the teacher as a writer and the student as a writer, that help guide students to move toward their intention and making their message really clear and effective for their reader. And these students all along the way, they knew that their pieces were going to be published at this Lost Pines Art Center, and that they would be painting canvases to illustrate their fictional stories. And so you can see all their process here of revising and editing on their papers. And then they used special paper to do their final drafts. Her students had more fluency in writing, and students who she felt like it would help them to publish digitally did type their stories if that felt like it might be too cumbersome for them to do a final draft. Again, by third grade, the kids might be ready for copying over because they want to have a legible draft, and maybe their revisions were more in depth or all over, kind of all over the place, that they just need to get ready for their audience, kind of clean it up for the audience. Here she has the students painting their. They were just these little 4x4 canvases, and what she had them do was to draw a 4x4 space on their notebook and plan out their illustration before they got started with their painting. I just thought it was amazing what great art they were able to produce to go up next to their work at the Art Center. This is the Lost Pines Art Center. It is a wonderful community space and resource for the community. You can just see how beautiful it is with all the natural light. Look at, they made their own invitations here. It says, come see my artwork, that they sent home to their families. So this art was on display. The director of the Art Center put up some of those foldable walls right at the opening, the front entrance of the Art Center, and the students' work was displayed alongside their art. They're writing right next to their little canvases there, as you can see. And they did have a publishing party. I was so lucky to get to go and see it, where the students came with parents, anyone who could make it. Not everybody made it, but a lot of the families came to view the writing and the artwork. You can see them here together reading. There were some snacks as well. And you can see them pointing out that just the pride in their students was really inspiring. And then there was also a place where you could leave feedback for the writers, so that later she could go get the box of feedback and bring it back and read it to her authors. This, even though there was just one night for like a specific celebration party that they were all invited to, this work was on display for 2 weeks. And one of the reflections in this unit later on, if you want to take a look, she has recorded the reflections of her students talking about how it went, what they liked about their process. And I love how they talked about how even if they didn't make it for that celebration, but just knowing that their work was displayed in this art space really helped them feel pride and embrace that side of them that believed that they were and knew that they were authors really impacting their audience. Here's a little bit about her work last year and then this year. So she's talking about the connection between the two different community spaces that she had her students publish in. I'm going to go back just really quick to take one more look here. You can see how Meggie Smiley kept a little blurb here for the authors and even pictures of their process. Here she is publishing their process. She didn't just put up their final copies, but she's actually got pictures of everything they did along the way, helping to promote the importance of process-based writing, that kids' work is not going to look perfect the first time. We can't expect that we work with them individually through conferences and mini lessons and guidance to get them to move their writing forward, but that we meet every student where they are and we get them motivated to write through these authentic audiences and offering opportunities to write about the things that they care about and are the most interested in. This here she explains what the process was like, explains a little bit about the grant that we had and where some of these ideas had come from. And I love the way that she talks about her students. You just know that these are her kids, that she, that like many teachers do, she loves them and supports them in their endeavors as writers. I'm gonna go ahead and invite you to take another look at that unit of study on imaginative stories that Meggie Smiley did. And now let's move to see her spring semester unit of study about informational texts and the digital text that her students created. So here they are holding up their writing, and they did a lot of really deep analysis of informational texts in looking at magazine articles and different kids magazines that used text features. And here's a lot of the examples that they looked at together. Again, in her classroom, she had anchor charts. She really did some great work also helping them to identify what makes a good topic for informational text, something that you already know something about, something you're already interested in, have personal experience with. When we have students choose topics for informational writing that they have personal experience with and interest in already, their voice really comes out in that writing. They have authority on that subject. They can, of course, do more research in a variety of ways to continue to support that topic, but the foundation is there and the motivation is there for the student, as opposed to, say, assigning that every student choose an animal and has to research that animal. these students all had a real wide variety of things to write about for their informational texts. And again, the way she documented here, she's got the planning going on, the brainstorming. Here, this student wrote, being a good kid. She said, I know how to be a good kid, and she be patient and don't beg. She's got all these different things that she was teaching her audience about how to do. Another thing that I think was so great about what Meggie Smiley did here is that there were these hybrid texts. Often we see teachers teach informational text as a straight informational text that is only to inform. But when we actually start looking at a lot of informational texts, especially in some of the magazines that she used as mentor text, there are often elements of procedural text and elements of persuasion incorporated. And so the students were really creating these hybrid texts that incorporated a lot of different strategies and structures to and really complex purposes as authors. Here's some more of their process writing, seeing how they lined it all out. They did some planning in their spirals, and then they had little booklets using just printer paper folded in half to outline all their text here. And then she knew that they were going to be producing their their informational texts digitally using edu.bunsey.com. And in order to get them familiar with the application and with the site, she actually had them make Bunseys in math also. So in math, they were creating word problems that had to do with arrays when they were learning multiplication. And so here she shares several of the arrays so that her students could start to experiment with using a lot of the different multimodal tools and know like when to put what color in the background didn't distract from your text, or how to add some video as well as some audio or some animation or some stamps. Here you have the student talking, so that once they then got to the stage where they were going to be publishing their informational texts electronically or digitally here on the multimedia slideshow tool, they already were really familiar with some of that, those decisions in digital literacy that authors make when they're composing with a variety of modalities. So here she's got a video of when they actually got started moving their text over. And here you can see them all over the room working on their computers to compose. One student wrote about how to take care of your pet pig. He had a pet pig, and oh, I love that one. Here they were celebrating. They also had this great celebration. They had one party in the computer lab. You see those little cups, they have pretzels in them. And there was a bag, if you can kind of see them over here, yeah, with an about the author written in print that was attached to like a lunch bag, like a paper lunch bag, where they could leave comments for each other. And then each student would go around and listen and read to other students' Bunseys, write down a comment, and put it in the bag for the author. So that even though there could have been some comments online, they also got these hard copy comments, which I think was really this really tangible note of writing. You can see them writing them to each other as they read. Grab a compliment card, fill it out, and drop it in the author's bag. Just that language of a compliment card also was giving a message to the people who attended. There were teachers who came, also some BISD, Bastrop ISD board members were invited and came. That this idea of compliment, that this stage in the process, when kids were done with their project, were sharing it, was not a time that she was asking for critical feedback on their work, that this was the time to celebrate that process entirely. And I'm going to go back to this link here where she has a Bunsey board of all of her students' informational texts that are great mentor texts for other young authors. The titles are just great. So we've got them about basketball, about sisters. I've just got to open this one about sisters. I have sisters, and this one I just really relate to as a reader. The best thing about being a great sister is teaching. When I think about being a good sister, it makes me feel good. My favorite things about being a good sister is love, good role modeling. If you want to know more about being a good sister, keep on reading. And then she's added in some videos of herself as well. of her reading her text. You have to take turns with your stuff. So again, there's this hybrid text where she's got some persuasion in there as well as some information, and it is on a topic she knows about. She's an expert on this. She is a good sister. So we don't need to give students topics for their informational writing. They are knowledgeable. They have things to write about, and we just need to create a space where they are supported in that work. So I just want to celebrate all of these Bunsey teachers, these LRNG teachers who used Bunsey to do their digital documentation. And I do hope that you'll take a look at these units of study and pay attention to how we publish student work in both community spaces and online with community members, including colleagues and administrators, parents, family members, students, and even internationally, to promote this work of process writing. That writing does not happen in a day. It doesn't happen quickly. It is a messy process, and it is only through embracing that process and really, really honing our craft as teachers through understanding that process that we can provide all of our students with high quality access to writing instruction in our classrooms. So thanks, and we hope that you will read more of our units and that you'll be in touch with us in the comment section of this resource on The Current.